In 1975, while Little House is on hiatus, instead of taking time off to spend with his family, Michael Landon returns to The Loneliest Runner, his autobiographical script about bedwetting.
I think that's one of the reasons why his shows were so human. They had a lot of humanity in his scenes because things that happened to Michael often in his private life wound up in a script and wound up on the screen.
The hundreds of letters he receives reveal the impact of the show. Michael has turned his personal pain into a script for the benefit of others. Cindy Clerico is working on the set of The Loneliest Runner as an extra. She vividly recalls the first time she saw Michael.
And I remember he was wearing these black jeans and this red T-shirt with Theodore Man across his chest. And I looked at this man, I thought, oh my God, this is probably one of the most extraordinarily handsome men I've ever seen in my life. But it was more than that. There was a presence about Michael. There was a strength.
Cindy is 21 years old. Her down-to-earth style and ease with children has Michael immediately head over heels in love.
That was another one of those things where they, you know, I saw her, she saw me, can't be denied.
I think that Michael and I had developed a friendship. I think that, you know, there was never any intention of anybody breaking up a marriage. I mean, I certainly didn't set my sights on this man. I think that that in time we had just developed this incredible friendship, and one thing led to another.
The incredible friendship has a language all its own.
Well, he would pat his head 3 times. You know, I love you. That was his signal to me at home.
Right on.
In July 1980, with little fanfare, Michael Landon moves out of his family's 35-room Beverly Hills estate and into his Malibu beach house. Many at the network worry that the public will not accept such behavior from the man who plays Pa Ingalls.
A lot of people don't think kindly to men who have a lot of wives. His big audience, I believe, was in the Bible Belt, and yet he did things that offended the Bible Belt.
He was criticized for that. Here he was being a family man and preaching for family values, and he himself was going through a divorce. And I think that affected him. His personal life was one thing, the show was something else.
He knew it was going to be a difficult situation and stuff. He knew he had to go on with happiness. You know, not on a selfish basis, but on a basis that, well, life just had to go on.
It's not that this doesn't happen all the time in Hollywood.
Michael and Lynn divorce in 1981. She receives a $26 million settlement and the $3.5 million house. There is not a ripple in the ratings.
I never did see Michael as the guy with the curly hair and the halo, but he was a real person. Michael gave the impression of being the perfect father with the perfect wife and the perfect kids in the perfect little house on the prairie. And he was just another human being.
Michael and Cindy are married on Valentine's Day in 1983.
We talk about meeting your soulmate. I mean, it worked beautifully.
Michael has suffered personal turmoil and has made a definitive break away from his TV character. Michael Landon is not Pa Ingalls. Laura Ingalls' books covered 18 years of her life. The television program airs for 10 years, at the end of which Walnut Grove disappears in a flash of dynamite and smoke.
Got it.
But the enduring Michael Landon does not. Coming up, Michael hops on the highway to his 3rd hit show, and later, the dramatic life story that never made it into a script.
This is Headliners and Legends with Matt Lauer.
After 14 years as Little Joe on the Ponderosa and 9 more as a homesteader in Little House on the Prairie, Michael Landon pushes network executives for a 3rd family-oriented feel-good series. But despite his record of success, some programmers think Landon has lost his touch.
In 1983, with 2 enormous television successes to his credit, Michael Landon has achieved TV superstar status. And yet, when he goes to Brandon Tartikoff, president of NBC Entertainment, with a story idea, he does not get an automatic yes. Michael wants to do a series with elements of the classic film It's a Wonderful Life. Michael tells Tartikoff that a lot of people can make you laugh. He wants to move people, make them feel, even cry. It will be called Highway to Heaven.
They didn't believe in it. NBC didn't expect to put it on the air. He made the pilot with the understanding that if it didn't work in testing, he would make a real pilot, you know, one that people could go and watch instead of some stupid thing about an angel.
But the formula works.
When it tested higher than any show they'd had since Little House.
Again, Michael will produce, star, write, and direct.
It was an 8 o'clock show that was very family-friendly. At a time when shows like Miami Vice were on the air, at the network, we'd always want his character to fall in love and get in a fist fight. And if that could happen on a weekly basis, that would be terrific. And he had the good sense not to do that.
At the network, he is jokingly referred to as Jesus of Malibu. He doesn't follow industry trends or buck his hard-earned devotion to family values. Michael knows who he wants to play opposite him. Michael originally met Victor French on the set of Bonanza, where he was always cast as the bad guy. But on Little House on the Prairie, Michael had cast him as the lovable Isaiah Edwards. Michael thinks Victor is perfect for the role of Mark Gordon on Highway to Heaven.
A network is going to try to cast. I mean, you know, generally you think that, will this person be on the cover of People magazine? You know, Victor French was a talented actor, and he'd starred in his own sitcom, but I don't think anybody thought he was a heartthrob.
Michael sticks by his casting decision and sticks to old-fashioned storytelling. Highway to Heaven premieres on September 19th, 1984.
I think it all probably goes back to Bonanza. And if you look at an old Bonanza episode, someone came to the Ponderosa with a problem, and the Cartwright family helped resolve it. And this was kind of the reverse, in that his characters went to the problem as opposed to having the problem come to them.
Who do you work for?
God.
God?
My boss is God. I'm an angel.
Oh, you had me scared there for a second. I'll see you in the morning.
So it was really, from a character standpoint, a character dilemma, which is where the richest storytelling is.
When he came to Highway to Heaven as an angel, I think at first it was a kind of a gimmick. But as he grew, I think he felt in a way he had a message to send, and maybe not as an angel, but as a representative of what is good.
The message is cloaked in good humor and fun.
Amazing Man was this character that he had developed for one of his highway shows, and he really liked this suit. I heard stories that he used to take my brothers and sister to the market, or, you know, take them somewhere public in it. He loved that suit. It made him look like he had the biggest muscles.
The public loves the show, but critics feel it's too religious.
I don't think Highway to Heaven was a religious show, but I think it was a terribly moral show, a terribly spiritual show.
Michael certainly felt a connection to God. But was Michael a religious man? I would say Michael was a spiritual man.
From watching Highway to Heaven, you'd think this guy's really religious, you know? Probably sleeps with the Bible by his bed, maybe. But it was really just about being a good person and being nice to people, doing good to your fellow man. That's not a religion. That's something that everybody should live by.
By the mid-1980s, Michael Landon's opportunities are not limited to the small screen.
There was nobody bigger in television than Michael Landon. And I know that he had offers to do more features, but he wanted to stay in the medium that he knew, that he could control, because he controlled everything that he did. He controlled the production, the acting, the casting. Every part of that series was Michael Landon.
Michael knew what he was good at doing and what worked for him, and that's what he stuck with.
That's why I like series television. I have people with me who've been with me for 20 years, and it's a family, and you go to work with a great bunch of people, and everybody cares.
My dad didn't just hire random people, you know. He kept people on through his shows and was very loyal to them.
Well, how many years I worked with Michael Landon? On Bonanza and all the shows, about 33 years.
I think you had to die to get off the crew.
And how did he earn their loyalty? by keeping the kind of hours one would expect of a bank, not a television crew.
When he got what he liked, they moved on, which usually was the first or second take. He had the fastest crew, and they got home for dinner.
That was his rule. We would end by 6 o'clock because he wanted everybody home with their family, and that was that.
And Monday night football, you know, he'd always see that we'd crew get home time to see football. We'd come to Mike, you know, it's tonight's Monday night. Well, he'd see we got through shooting.
Sometimes stars would be coming in to do a guest shot, and their agents would say, well, you know, we want a big motorhome and this and that. And Mike would say, don't just tell your client not to worry about a thing. They'll have exactly what I have. So the actor would come to work and say, wow, I got it made. I've got exactly what Mike Landon has. And it would be a room in the honey wagon.
You know what the honey wagon is? It's the bathrooms, you know. And he says, you're the first door to the right.
I change my clothes in a little tiny room. It's the same size room as everybody else changes in, whether they be a day player or an extra.
And what happens to the money saved?
Michael said that the crew was just as important as to getting this show done under budget as he was. He would always divvy up what was left over and give the crew, everybody in the crew got a bonus check.
On Christmas time, he'd give out wonderful gifts to us. The last shot of the day, I'd feel something behind me, sliding into my pocket. I'd turn around, it was my gift. I'd pull the envelope out. You know what was in it? A check for $10,000, $5,000. He did that time and time again.
Other producers would say, well, if you've worked for Mike, you can't work for me because it's not going to be so easy on you.
Once again, tragedy looms for one of Michael's friends and co-stars. In May 1989, Victor French is diagnosed with lung cancer. He, like Michael, is a heavy smoker. The suddenness of his death a month later is a shock. In August 1989, Highway to Heaven ceases production.
3 hits is a lot for anyone to have in television. Oh, you know, 1 hit makes your career. 2 hits is amazing. You've reinvented yourself. 3 hits. That's the Triple Crown.
She decides to go for a 4th. This time it is a show called Us. Michael will play a man who returns to his family after 18 years of wrongful imprisonment. This is Michael Landon territory, the story of a family.
Michael wanted it to take it to NBC. He'd been with NBC for 14 years of Bonanza, 10 years of Little House, and 5 years of Highway, and he took this project to NBC. And the powers that be at the time said, well, we don't need you anymore. And so he took it to CBS, and they bought it up.
It was an opportunity for him to be just a regular person. You know, he didn't have to be perfect. In Little House, he had to be like the perfect father, and Highways like the angel. So this was something a little bit different for him.
He could be harder. He could get into more scrapes because being an angel, we had to be careful of what he did.
Barney Morton plays his father.
We signed the contract, and I was so happy. And I knew that I was contracted for so many years, and I just knew that we were going to have a positive series. It was going to be a really great series.
He did everything, and he did it so smoothly and so easy, never seemed stressed out. And I used to just be I was in awe of him, you know, because he could do everything. He would come home. He was a great dad.
There was one game that I just have to talk about in particular that I remember. It's so symbolic looking back on like what the game was, and it was just a game. We'd go to the beach, and he would have us lay down in the sand where the waves would break, and we would have to face up towards the beach, and we couldn't look back, and the waves would come, and you'd hear them, but you couldn't look. If you looked back, you lost, and like the waves would come and they'd crash on you. There's a sense that fear is totally human, but don't live your life based on fear.
Coming up, Michael Landon in the role of his life, courageous and heroic in the face of cancer. Early in 1991, after having 3 hit shows on NBC, Michael Landon begins work on a series for CBS. The show will be called Us. That spring, Michael takes a ski trip with his family. While on vacation, he suffers severe stomach cramps. He returns to Los Angeles to see a doctor. At first, they suspect an ulcer, but further tests reveal cancer of the pancreas that has spread to the liver. The prognosis is grim. Only 1% of patients with this combination survive as long as 5 years. His son Josh had suspected something was wrong a few months earlier.
I looked at him, and I saw the tones of illness in him, and I called him on it. I said, "Yeah, you look really tired. What's going on?" I said, "I'm just working really hard," because Dad was, that macho, strong, "I'm not sick, I'm invincible, I'm going to be all right."
Michael had been a strong figure in the television industry for 30 years. And all of a sudden, this strong, very vital man, is stricken with cancer out of nowhere, and given 3 months to live.
Your first reaction is, well, this is just a small problem. Let's get this. Can you have an operation? Or when are you going to get this corrected? And when he said there was nothing he could do, and he probably had 3 to 5 months to live, it tore everything apart.
And then Michael said he was sorry to have done this to me, and I said, "Don't worry about me, let's get you well, that's the only thing, and that's the kind of guy Michael was. He was thinking about the other people who were affected by his health.
When Michael was diagnosed, I remember we came home and we told the children that their dad had cancer, and tried to be as honest as we could throughout the process.
My mom and my dad sat down, and I knew something was wrong. He'd been sick for a while, but cancer didn't come to my mind at all, because it's not something that exists in a child's world, and, he said, I have cancer, and I asked him if it was from smoking, and he said, yeah, part of it.
2 days after finding out himself, Michael calls a press conference.
He said, "I don't want this to appear first in the tabloids so my friends and family and fans can see it. I want it to come from me." And he said, "I want a press conference."
When you find out you have something like this, at first you just don't believe it, especially if you're a physical kind of a guy, And I'm still hoping to beat it. But life has been good to me.
And that showed the kind of courage that Michael had. Michael knew how to do things the right way.
Live every minute, guys.
The minute he got sick, he knew that stories were going to start. Stories that came out about the family and the fact that, Michael had 4 weeks to live. And, at a time when a family's trying to deal with someone dying, it's really such an invasion.
People from every talk show would call and say, "We'd love to talk with me." Now, Johnny Carson was the one talk show that had never called.
It has been 1 month since Michael called the press conference, and the public is clamoring for a glimpse of Pa. On May 9th, 1991, Michael asks Johnny Carson if he can appear on The Tonight Show.
And for the past month, he has continued to face this battle with humor and honesty and a personal sense of dignity that characterizes a man. Would you welcome Michael Landon?
Johnny is nervous. Michael is a good friend who is suffering. Michael puts him at ease.
But the hair looks great.
I had my roots done yesterday, especially for this show. 2 blood transfusions, and I had my roots done. You think I didn't want to come on John's show?
It is a touching exchange between 2 old friends.
I was a little worried about this interview tonight. You've made me feel much better. With your attitude. I mean it.
Sadly, this is Michael Landon's last television appearance.
When it became apparent that, that Dad was not getting better, we talked more about death and what happens when you die.
Even when I saw him so weak, I still thought, he can pull out of this. He's an amazing man. Family came over. My brothers and sisters were here, I think, almost every day. He didn't want to leave because there were so many things he was leaving behind, and there was so much that he wanted to do, even though he'd lived his life to the fullest every single day.
On July 1st, 1991, at his home in Malibu, Michael awakens alert. All 9 of his children, his sister, and a few friends are at the house. He asks everyone but Cindy to leave the room. 2 hours later, at 1:20 p.m., she emerges. He is dead. The scene around his house is chaotic. News helicopters circle overhead. But the mood is somber as the gray Los Angeles County coroner's van drives away with Michael's body inside.
When you pass away, we're all spoiled. We'll never be able to find anybody and treat us like he did and have the fun that we had.
I went into directing after working with Mike, and I've copied from him because I only believe in copying from the best.
Whenever I close my eyes and I think of Michael, I see him standing in red shorts, red cut-off T-shirt, big head of hair, and just laughing.
Michael Landon believed television could be used to promote more than just sex and violence, and that there would always be an audience for family entertainment. He was right. Turn on any television today, and you're likely to find a program which he starred in, wrote, directed, or produced, and not just in this country, worldwide. In Michael Landon shows, the values of love, integrity, and decency come to life through characters and stories often mined from his own painful past.
Sometimes it seems like with some people, once they finally figured it out, there's this feeling that they just know a little bit more than you do about the whole deal. And those are the people who usually then go. He was definitely somebody who taught you to appreciate your life.
In the final weeks of his life, Michael Landon received more than 50,000 cards and letters from fans and well-wishers. Far more than any award, that's probably the ultimate proof of just how much he was in touch with his audience. I'm Matt Lauer. Thanks for watching.